sea glass, beach glass, mermaid tears, sand glass, so many names for the shards of glass that we find along our ocean shorelines. But how did that glass get in there in the first place? If not all, most of it from human hands. Most of the sea glass that has gone into the ocean has been dumped over the bank. Years ago, in bygone days, there was not official landfill sites. So garbage was pushed over the bank, pushed over the shoreline, and ended up on the beaches. So your food and your clothes would compost, but your glass and crockery had a much longer shelf life. So that was really good for sea glass. So now the glass and the crockery is on the sand. So the next thing that happens, it has to make its way into the water. So the first thing to find when you're going to look for sea glass, there's three things actually. One is the source of the glass. Second is the shoreline. And so is there a nice long shoreline and some rocks on the shoreline, or is it all smooth? And the third is what we call prevailing winds. So you can see that the winds here are coming onshore. And it has to be, that's the most that the winds will always come here, is an onshore breeze. So this is a great beach. Why? Location. Over here and over here, there used to be town dumps. And we have the right nice shoreline, and we have the prevailing winds. The other thing with PEI is in Surrey, between 1820 and 1880, it was a major shipbuilding hub, and over 200 vessels were launched from this harbor. The other thing that is really pertaining to this area, to the eastern end of Prince Edward Island, is our rum running. We were famous for running rum. So what that means is that on the north side and on the different beaches, there was a 3-mile mark. So the rum people that were taking this illegal alcohol in were only allowed to take the ships to the 3-mile mark. So fishermen at the time, and there was a downturn in the fisheries, would take their fishing boats out. They would get on the bigger ship, sample some of the wares, of course, and then they would take the alcohol, the hooch, the rum, back to land, usually under the cover of night and usually into little coves, so the police or the officials at the time wouldn't be able to find them. So in that haste, a lot of glass was broken, and it was black glass, because black glass, kept the contents better. So location, location, location will determine what type of glass you find. So PEI collections can brag many pieces of black glass because of our rum running days. And just one other little tidbit. During Prohibition on PEI, and it had the longest period of Prohibition from 1901 to 1948, there was more alcohol, it was rumored that there was more alcohol drunk on PEI than at any other time. So after we have determined the location, when do we go and pick sea glass? So a lot of people say to go about an hour to before or after low tide, because then you have the expansive beach that you can be able to pick on. And where? So sometimes some people, they walk the high tide mark. So they're walking the high tide mark, hopefully those prevailing winds has thrown that sea glass way up here. And so from the high tide mark, we have others that love to stay on the low tide mark, hoping that that little bit of gravel has some sea glass within it. And then we have others that zigzag between the two. They go up to the high tide mark and down to the low tide mark. So, but it is whatever you prefer. And then we have others that like to dig. We refer to them as diggers. They don't walk the shoreline, they sit in one place and they sift through the gravel in hoping to find that elusive piece of sea glass. And on sometimes we have you find that piece of sea glass, you hold it up and you realize it's not ready. So you return it back to the ocean to continue its journey on its way to become nice and rounded, fully patinaed, no sharp edges sea glass. We had spoken about when to go to as well, and another time is after a storm, especially with the spring times and after a nor'easter. Everything lines up perfectly for that glass to be thrown in to the shoreline.
Yes!
And then when you're out to go sea glassing, you find that piece. Everyone comes walking to see what she found, to share her find with others. So even though you might go out with a group of people, sea glassing can become fairly solitary because you break off and find those pieces of sea glass.
That's beautiful. There's markings on it. It is. It says maple rub.
Hi, Camilla. Did you find any
Terry.
special finds today?
Mostly tiny little pieces, but I did find one that's pretty special.
Oh, wow. Look at that turquoise color. That is so rare. Beautiful. Can I touch it? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So why do we go sea glassing? There's many reasons. Some find it a very meditative experience, others hunting for whatever they can find, others for a particular color or a shape. And for many, it's just the simple joy of being out in nature alone or with others. So ponder the origins as each piece of glass has its story. Where did it come from? Who owned it? Were they sad when the glass broke and had to be tossed in the trash? Take time to feel connected to the history of the people who lived nearby as you hold a physical momentum of their existence in your hand. Many times, if you listen carefully, the glass will tell you the answers.